Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome to my channel where I cover all things entertainment. Whatever you're watching, I'm making videos about. And on Saturday, I like to do whatever the hell I want, and that is look at my favorite streaming service, Shudder, and find a good horror recommendation for you guys. Y'all, I failed. Lake of Death is a Norwegian cabin-in-the-woods horror film that follows Lillian, a young woman who lost her twin brother 1 year prior. So in typical horror film fashion, she decides to get a group of friends together to go to the old family cabin in the woods. Guess what happens? Lillian begins hallucinating like fucking Alice in Wonderland. There are about 4 urban legends coming to life at once, about 1,000,001 red herrings, and then strange events progress to unexplained murders. We're basically just missing the harbinger of death. I've said a few different times that I think a lot of the Shudder originals and exclusives often feel like a TV movie of the week, or in, today's world, a streaming movie of the week. Some of them are pretty damn good, I have to admit, but there are a lot of them that are just plain basic. And honestly, Netflix is built off of bringing us basic entertainment every week because we need stuff to watch. And Shudder is the Netflix of horror, and I really have no problem with them throwing up these basic horror movies every week because it gives us something to watch. I wouldn't necessarily go to a theater to see this, but I'll stream it. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to judge it for what garbage it is, though. Lake of Death is basically a cinematic collection of every horror movie cliche that we've had to put up with for the last 40 years. And it's especially annoying because the characters in the actual movie are constantly referencing other far superior horror films, and we've seen that a lot, but it isn't even used in a way to actually develop any of the characters or push the narrative forward in a different way. Like at one point, they find a secret basement, and I'm like, oh wow, they've really checked off all of the Evil Dead boxes. And then immediately one of the characters is like, wow, it's just like Evil Dead. Yeah, just like it, actually, just like it. It's so stupid because it's just like, okay, so all of these characters, they know all of the horror movie lingo, they know the references, they know the tropes, yet they don't seem to recognize any of them when they are actually in a horror film. Okay. We have a group of hot, young, Nordic, blonde, athletic characters in the beautiful scenery of Norway in this gorgeous cabin in the middle of nowhere. We have the setup of the classic slasher film, right? But then the movie plays out with all of these supernatural thriller scares, and it just clashes. It doesn't really work. Like I said, there's about 4 different urban legends that have Lillian looking over her shoulder every minute. Maybe her brother isn't dead and maybe he's after them, or maybe Lillian is just crazy because she's a woman in a film who has dealt with trauma. Lillian's having these visions, she's having these scare sequences all over the place. Nightmares all day for Lillian. There's even this like black ooze that's popping up and around and stuff, and it's just, the movie doesn't decide on one thing. And I feel like that's especially annoying to us horror fans because there really isn't enough there to satisfy the supernatural fans or the slasher fans, and ultimately, this movie doesn't really do anything on its own. The number one takeaway that I got from Lake of Death is that we need to retire the damaged heroine trope. This is so annoying. As I've explained, Lillian is, of course, traumatized, so she's freaking out all over the place. Everyone thinks she's crazy. She starts sleepwalking. They're all worried she's gonna snap any moment. And this is just a trope that we've seen done time and time again. And it fully hit me watching Lake of Death that I was just like, this is done. This is over. We need to get rid of this. It's like bordering on problematic, because I'm sure you've seen a horror film where there is a main character who has been through a tragic event, so we're supposed to care about them just because they went through something, never mind giving them actual character development. But then, throughout the whole movie, they will have nightmare visions and freak out, and maybe they're behind all of the horror, or maybe it's actually some sort of perpetrator, or aliens, or who knows. I don't care. Just don't make the person crazy. That is the ending that we are all so sick of. But I'm so sick of just this trope being used because, to be perfectly honest, it doesn't develop the character at all. It just is an excuse to throw all of these stupid dream sequences at the viewer, and we're all done with those, right? Like, if you want to make a movie about nightmares, do that. If you want to make a movie about a killer at a lake, or about an evil lake, or about someone going crazy at the lake, make that movie. It's such a bummer because I feel like the horror genre would be such a good place to explore issues of mental illness and trauma and all of that. I feel like you could really do a lot of solid work, but this is just a trope that we have been letting writers get away with for far too long. Lake of Death is built entirely on this trope and wastes so much time with all these spooky, meaningless bullshit sequences that go nowhere and do nothing while characters reference other horror films that I would rather be watching, and ultimately, the movie just doesn't really do anything to set itself apart from any other horror movie that I have seen before. I can name a bunch of different supernatural horror films that did that better than Lake of Death, and I can think of a bunch of different slasher movies that also did those aspects way better than Lake of Death. It's just a bummer that it doesn't have anything to set itself apart. There isn't one good dream sequence or one good kill. There's like a scene at the end that takes place underwater and it's well shot, so that looked good. There's a hot blonde guy, like, I'm grasping at straws here, folks. I'm gonna give Lake of Death a 2 out of 5, and honestly, I'm feeling pretty fucking generous with that. I have to say that this feels more like just an extended clip of every horror trope and cliche that you could come up with, as opposed to an actual full feature-length film, which is a disappointment, but I have to say that I'm not entirely hating on this because, you know, if you enjoyed this or you just want a movie like this, that's perfectly fine. And that's kind of the fun of Shudder, where you can just log on, throw something on like this, and have a good time with it. I did not enjoy this movie. However, it wasn't the worst experience. There's an attractive cast and beautiful scenery, and, you know, with some wine, it was at least a watchable movie. But I know that many of you would probably throw this on and go, this is a complete waste of time. If you want a simple summer scare, feel free to watch Lake of Death, but I'd say even for $5 a month, we deserve better than this. What did you guys think of Lake of Death? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. I don't really feel like a lot of people are gonna watch this movie, but hey, let me know anyway if you actually enjoyed some of those aspects in this film, or if you agree and this is pretty much an example of everything wrong with the genre. Thank you so much for watching this video. Double thank you if you made it to this far in the video to actually hear me say thank you. Thank you, thank you. That's it for this video, but I won't stop you from watching another.